Hi, my name is Rayna Rose Exelbeard. Have you ever heard the name Exelbeard before? Probably not. There's less than 10 of us in the entire world. My father's parents were Holocaust survivors. In fact, the reason my middle name is Rose is because during the Holocaust, my grandfather had a sister named Rosa who was hiding from the Nazis, and with her baby, they were both sold out for half a kilo of sugar and were murdered. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. We know about Memphis, Tennessee because of Elvis Presley, B.B. King, if you like good music. But Memphis is also special because of the civil rights movement. It's where Martin Luther King was assassinated. My entire life, I've grown up with a passion for social justice and for all communities, no matter their race, history, or culture, to be able to have the opportunity to live freely and for their children to have those same opportunities. Now, when you think of Tennessee, you might think of the Deep South, and if you can believe it, in Tennessee, I never experienced racism a day in my entire life. And when I was 18 years old, instead of going to college like all my friends were doing, I decided to go to Israel for a year. I was in the army for 3 months. I did archaeological digging. I got the opportunity to befriend people from all over the world. I worked at an archaeological dig site in Jerusalem. You know, not only is Israel a super old place, so I found some really cool stuff, but when you're actually in Jerusalem and you're learning about all these different cultures, you realize it ain't about her story, it ain't about his story. Israel is all a part of our story. And before I went to college in Israel, it was for the first time in my entire life that I was notified that, you know, when you get to college, you might meet some people who don't like Jews. You might experience anti-Semitism. Now, imagine this, okay? Boca Raton, the city where my university was, has more Jews in one city than the entire state of Tennessee. So when they were like, you might experience it, I was like, I might not. But I'm so appreciative that I was exposed to this before I got to my campus, because I want you to imagine, it's the first week of school, I put on my outfit, I get my makeup ready, and I'm on my way walking to class in the breezeway, which is like the large outdoor hallway at my university, and I see this super, super hot guy talking to the Jewish organization on campus. So you know what I did? I walked faster, and when I got up to the table, the guy all of a sudden was saying some of the craziest stuff I'd ever heard about Israel in my entire life. And I remember thinking to myself, I know that this stuff happens, but this don't happen at my school. So I start talking to the guy, and the first thing that this guy says to me is that Israeli soldiers drink blood. Does this look like someone who would drink blood? And he went on to tell me how Jews stole the land, and I told him about how I worked at an archaeological dig site, and we went back and forth, and 30 minutes later, he walked away, and I was so angry that I didn't change his mind. I had all these stories, I had all these pictures, and the more I thought about it, even though I lived in Israel, couldn't tell you where it was on a map. Even though my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, couldn't tell you what their story was. So going through those challenges really empowered me to get educated, which was so important because I went on to face even more challenges in college. I was cyberbullied. I had my picture posted all over the internet with horrible things written about me just because of my beliefs. I came home one Friday night, and on my dorm was a fake eviction notice. I ran around my dorm floor. I looked at every single door. You know how many doors had the notice? So you can see how I felt really, really targeted. These students were allowed to bring in speakers who said the Holocaust never happened, even though my university had a Holocaust major. And in fact, the first time I ever experienced blatant anti-Semitism, I'll never forget. I used to go to events held by the other student organizations because I wanted to learn, and it was an opportunity for me to teach. And one time I went to this movie screening, and at the end, I raised my hand. They called on me, and I started to say, in every generation, there's been a major persecution of Jews. And before I could get to the next syllable, this boy, he was sitting next to me, he stood up and he said, "I wonder why." And I never got to finish my thought. And everyone in the room started laughing at me. And I'm not gonna lie, it was one of the most devastating experiences of my entire life. But if there's anything that you can learn from my story, it's that these bullies, these challenges, empowered me to get educated. And through getting educated, I got involved with all these different nonprofits who gave me money and speakers to organize events on my campus. And that's when I realized, when it comes to sharing your story with other people, your goal is never to convince somebody or change somebody's mind. Your goal is to know who it is that you're talking to and to share information and pictures and stories that are going to resonate with that personality. And even though I went to college, study international business, I wanted to make a lot of money, go into politics one day, it was through overcoming these challenges that I found my passion for educating and inspiring others. So I want to let you know, I know that we're going through a really difficult time right now in our country, but these challenges are actually catalysts to create change. These challenges are opportunities to have conversations and educate other people in your network. And when I graduated college, I went to work in the nonprofit world. I was mentoring students. I was helping them combat anti-Semitism. I was helping them organize events in their school. And something really important that I learned recently is that when somebody says something that's racist or somebody says something that's anti-Semitic, your first response should never be, let's label this person all over the internet as a racist and not ever have a conversation. Because when you label somebody, do you really think they're going to want to have a conversation with you? So, as difficult as it is, when somebody says something that goes against your values, I want to challenge you. Ask that person questions. Figure out, why do they have that perspective? Because you know what happens when you give somebody else the opportunity to share their story? They're going to listen to yours. Every single person in this entire world was named their name for a reason. You are here because of a series of decisions that your parents and your grandparents made, and it is your responsibility to know that story, continue that story, and learn from that story. Anti-Semitism is still alive today. It's been happening for over 3,000 years. Many people think, oh, the Holocaust, when they think of anti-Semitism. No. Jewish people have been kicked out of countries for centuries. We've been treated as second-class citizens. The fact that Jewish people have a home today is so that we as a people can be safe and not at the mercy of other governments. Because history has shown, when we don't have a place of our own, really, really bad things can happen. And what I can tell you from my own experiences is when we don't speak out against hate, when we don't have those difficult conversations about what's happening in the world, unfortunately, sometimes those comments can turn into violence. And sometimes that violence can turn into genocide. Thank you so much for listening to what I have to say and for being a stand for what's right in the world. To understand each other does not mean that we have to agree. It just means that we listened and we asked questions. And again, we figured out why it is that you have that perspective. Thank you.